Hi, I'm Eric Rhodes, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine. Welcome. Today we have a brand new video sample for you. This is called Timeless Landscapes with the legend himself, Michael Coleman. I think you're going to enjoy this.
Michael Coleman. I live in Provo, Utah, right up against the mountains. This is my studio. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing today, trying to show you guys how to paint how I paint. It may not be the right way, but it's sure been fun for my whole life. Live and learn, that's kind of what I do. I do it a little different than some people and maybe the same as others, but I like to work from the top to the bottom, sort of, and you'll see as we get going along. And I keep things really simple. And there's there's so many great tubes of color out there, but boy, you can get tricked into using them, and not all the chemistry in each tube of color is the same. They don't mix with other colors like you think they would. So over the years, I've just kind of developed what I use, and I'll talk about that. And there again, very, very, very simple. The simpler it is, the easier it is to fix things. And the scene I'm going to be painting is kind of a scene down by Mud Lake and by Utah Lake. I used to trap a lot of muskrats and mink down there, and I spent a lot of the early hours of the morning and the late evening checking my traps, and so that's where I got to see just the light, the light that Heavenly Father makes and shows us, and it just grabs you when you're standing there in the stream and the sun is going down and everything is in just such beautiful colors. It's hard not to be affected by it. And so this is, I just love streams and ditch banks, and but what's underneath the cover. Instead of being on the path where most people are, I was always pretty much in the stream or whatever, looking under the banks and seeing things from probably from a muskrat's point of view. But it's just so great to see the stuff that other people don't see, and it just becomes magic, and especially in that early morning light and the late evening light, it's just really something to behold. So if you guys want to try some stuff, just go out in the late evening and early morning and just see what the sun does. This is just going to be more or less a daylight scene with the sun making it. I'm going to paint a rainbow in it. I'll show you kind of how I paint a rainbow. When I was at BYU and when I was younger, I loved rainbows. I'd make rainbows out of our sprinkling system, and wherever I'd see a rainbow, I'd ride on my bike and go all over the place and just see what they really look like. But there's a lot more to it than just the primary colors. You get those in there right, and then the rainbow actually really jumps and looks like a rainbow, and it's filled with light, and that's the object. But it's just such a great thing to be able to paint, and eventually things start looking like what they're supposed to. And that's really what you try to do each day, to make each painting better and better, and work harder and harder, and the whole thing is really fun. So I should be paying somebody to do this instead of them paying me, but the heck with that, I need the money. So anyway, this is a good way to do it, and I love painting. Here's my palette. I've got, as you can see, it's kind of a mess. I paint every day, 6 days a week, so I don't clean up very much at the end of the day. I scrape it off with my this razor, cleans the glass off. I've got some white. I'm going to paint this guy that I'm talking about. So what I usually do with charcoal, just kind of sketch in where the horizon and background fields are going to be pretty rough at this point. I've got a just kind of a rough sketch here that I'll look at it from time to time, but it's not much detail. I know kind of what I'm going to paint, so but that's kind of a division of spaces and that kind of thing. Anyway, the palette, the white I like to use is, I use Melba, and I used to use Grumbacher Finest, but they quit making it, and this is just a nice good white, and titanium white I use sometimes too, but Melba, I put just a little bit of dryer in it because the medium I use is really slow to dry, so I put just a touch of dryer in it, and in my medium as well to speed it up a little bit. The medium I use is in here. I just it's a Corelli medium. It's a medium of an Italian painter, 18th century Italian painter. There's paintings in the Louvre and everything have just come through in flying colors. No yellowing or cracking. It really is just a basic, good, simple medium. Linseed oil and gum turpentine and cobalt varnish, and I just as I put a little bit of that with the paint, it makes it more brushable, and that's why I use that. But anyway, here's my palette, the white, and I've got 2 or 3 different greens, ultramarine blue, zinc yellow, cadmium, a couple of different cadmium yellows, yellow ochre, raw umber, and I use Grumbacher red. It really is a good red, and alizarin crimson. Those are basically the colors I use, and I rarely do I vary from that. It's keeping, like I say, keeping things simple is a good way to do it. I think then you can have too many formulas and screw things up big time. But anyway, those are the basic colors I use. Anyway, then I'll get the tubes out and put them out and put a little bit out, and it builds up. This palette, I go through quite a few palettes in the course of a year. This palette is probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months old, something like that. And they get it starts closing in on me, and then I chuck it and do a new one. But anyway, this is my basic colors that I use. And for a sky, I use Naples Yellow. Naples Yellow is a really good color, but not everybody's Naples Yellow is the same. I've used what we've used in the past has been Da Vinci is such a good Naples Yellow, but they quit making it a long time ago. We had to make up a big batch for us, and I'm running low on that. And I went out the other day and I found Utrecht Yellow, Naples Yellow. It's pretty darn close to it. That's probably what I'll use today, and saving the Naples Yellow. But you want a bright yellow, and one that, I don't know, when it mixes with the other colors, it doesn't screw them up. And so this is really a good color. It mixes well with others. It's a good friendly color. And then ultramarine blue and Grumbacher red. So anyway, in your skies, you want the skies, the brightest part to be really bright and the darkest parts to be really dark. And in the painting, the contrast is what really makes things come together and makes things look right. You can muddy them down. It's pretty easy to do, but if you use the right paints and colors, it's harder to make things muddy. They stay true to what you're thinking and what's in your head and what you can see. And like I say, this is just really pretty darn rough. Okay, just and I put the medium in the dry, a little bit of dryer in the medium so that I can, after I get the sky, I start at the top and work down. It's starting to stiffen up by the end of the day, and by tomorrow it'll be dry enough that I can paint over it and no problem. And the water, when I finish painting the sky, I'll put the water in as well, and it'll be more or less dry by tomorrow. Then I'll start doing all this stuff so it doesn't get mixed up. But anyway, this is like I said, this is a scene down by Utah Lake, a place called Mud Lake. I've hunted ducks down there a lot, and a lot of marshland and fields, and some crops, but mostly just rough land for the ducks and pheasants and things. But this is what I'll do. And then I start mixing the colors. The brushes I like to use, I've used fan brushes an awful lot to do things. I started using these rosemary brushes. This is I don't know the names of things, but here this is Egbert number 8. It's long and very versatile. Boy, this really makes painting clouds and different things easy. A fan brush, you can do the same. You use the edge of it. There's a new one. But anyway, I like the older brushes better. Once they get beat up a bit, they seem to work a little bit better. But I've got a photograph of a sky there that's kind of really pretty basic. And then painting rainbows, I use charcoal because it just disappears when you paint over it, or you can wipe most of it off so you barely see it, so you kind of know the division of spaces and things that you kind of want to put in. You can do. Basically using primary colors in the sky. I like to start off with the lightest part of the blue, put the blue in, then work the other colors into it. I like to put the paint on fairly thick and then just kind of rub it in so there's enough to do the job but not enough to create a lot of fragmented brush strokes that catch the light, but enough to have some kind of personality. And put the blue in while the brush is still pretty clean, and I generally will get as much blue in, a little bit more blue than what it's going to actually be, and then I put some white in it with just a touch of red, and using 3 colors in the sky to make the clouds and everything. And this kind of brush is really good at just kind of mushes it into the sky, and use a kind of a rotating stroke back and forth. Kind of simulates what clouds look like and feel like. Painting clouds. I used to lay on my dad's garage roof and just look at the clouds. The clouds are really cool. I love looking at clouds. So to me, there's no secrets in painting. It's just a matter of just doing stuff, and like I say, keep it as simple as you can. There's no point in trying to make it mysterious or anything. It's pretty straightforward. Painting around the white areas, that's where the whiter clouds are going to go. I'm just kind of bringing the blue into the edges, and then I'll go back and I'll paint some of the darker clouds. Painting animals and painting landscapes, and to me, painting, what I'm kind of known for is the animal, well, landscapes and the mood and the tone and the basic, really a good feeling in the painting, because I've been there and done that, and that's what you need to do, is to go places and just sit still. Don't take anybody with you. Just sit still and listen to things and look at things. That's so important. It'll become part of you, and it feels so good. Bring the blues over to where I think the white of, more or less white of the clouds are going to be, and I leave a little gap in between, and then I'll go over and put some of the darker clouds in, and then bring them over to the other side. But anyway, just kind of bringing things together. And as I get to the left part of the sky, the colors are going to be a little deeper and more in the sun coming in this way, creating the rainbow that way. The clouds all around a rainbow, really what makes the rainbow snap. And so what I'll do is I'll put like the rainbow is almost capturing the light and surrounding the light, and the prism effect will show through, and then you get the primary colors that just bring all the clouds together. when I was in college, I really liked rainbows. I get up on my dad's garage and look at them and ride my bike to follow wherever they were. I'd make my own rainbows in the driveway with a hose and a sprinkler and see what made them look the way they really look. And I at that point, it's pretty limited in my experiences of other painters and how they did it, but most of the ones I had seen didn't look like you could tell they were rainbows, but it was just people painting colors in the sky. But there's a lot more to it than that, and if you do 2 or 3 things, it'll really make the rainbow be a lot more realistic, and it'll make it glow like it should, have just a really nice feel to it. But you have to do, like in everything, contrast is the main thing. You can paint a beautiful rainbow on a white piece of canvas and it won't look like much, but if you put the darks in and different things, a rainbow has certain things that it does in the sky that if you watch it close and accentuate some things sometimes, it'll really make a difference in a good rainbow or a really average one. The rainbow that I've seen, mostly they capture a lot of light underneath the rainbow. There's 2 rainbows, and later I'll suggest the secondary rainbow about there. But there's just a little bit here. You can put double. I painted big double ones on. Rainbows are so cool. They just really spark your imagination and write volumes in the sky with their colors. And you just have to pay attention to why it looks that way. If you can figure it out, you all of a sudden, voila, you have a rainbow. But everyone's different, and I remember seeing an exhibition in New York of landscape paintings, and I think it was George Innes that had, I don't know, there were probably 50 or 60 paintings by him, and 2 or 3 of them were rainbows, and one of them he had the colors backwards. And I don't know if he did that on purpose or a joke to somebody, but all his other ones were right. It was just the one painting that he put right here is where kind of the blue is, and then the yellow, and then the red, and he had it the opposite. And I thought that was kind of interesting that George Innes would do that. He probably had a reason. He was an interesting guy if you read about him. He'd be a pretty fun guy to hang out with for a while. It'd get on your nerves after a while too, like anybody. But I really like his paintings and things he did and tried to do and could do, and his surfaces and the colors. This is kind of what I do, just kind of go along and put the stuff where I think it should go. The brightest part of the rainbow is going to be through there. I'm doing here is putting red and ultramarine blue and Naples Yellow. Use those three colors, and you'd be surprised how many variations of gray and warm, and I use those three colors on sunsets and all kinds of things. And if you stick to it, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, what tube did I use, what this or that or the other. It's just, you know, it's a little bit more. If you use those three colors, you know you need a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you're not jumping all over the place. But people look at a rainbow and they think, oh, there's this color, there's that color. There's a lot of stuff there, but keep it simple, and you'll be a lot happier painter at the end of the day. This sky is pretty monotone. There's not a lot to it, but there's the grays and there's the kind of a yellowish. There's a little pink in some of the clouds and the rainbow, of course. But with those three colors, Naples Yellow, Grumbacher Red, and ultramarine blue, plus white, and less white, more white, you could make just absolutely blazing sunsets with those three colors. And I never, keeping it those simple and using those pigments, they never do have a chance to get muddy. If it goes a little too blue, you add a little more red. If it goes a little too purple, you add a little more yellow, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it comes out pretty darn clean and nice. You can look at a broad range of my paintings, from blazing sunsets to pale blue skies, iridescent colors, and things like that. It's those three colors and white, and they don't mess each other up. That's better, I guess, the best way to put it. But you avoid mud unless you're painting mud. So yeah, I really like these brushes. They're kind of an extension of your finger. You rub, 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 rub. Pretty soon it'll start to look like something. This studio we built it 31 or 32 years ago. It was 2 acres, and there were a few houses up here, but not that many, and it's really been built up. They're building a big one across the street. For years and years it was just a big grassy field, and each summer, well, for 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years, we've raised. I have a connection with a person that gets abandoned does and little fawns, deer that get the Fish and Game in Utah. They don't have facilities to raise them, so they just kill. They tell people, "Well, we'll take it to a happy home." Well, they just kill them. So this lady intercepts them, and I get them, and we have fun with them out in the yard. And we really have had a lot of time over the years, a lot of fun times over the years with these little deer. We've got it blocked off, and we've got chickens out in the back. And these little deer, they feed them 3 times a day. They come in and suck on my ear. And they've been in the studio. I've got some videos that the deer walking through my studio, and it's just little wonders to watch them. Little sparkly eyes and wet noses and stuff, but our grandchildren especially love them, and our children. And in the afternoons, when they're out in the swimming pool, the deer hears them, frolicking in the pool and stuff, and comes running out and runs back and forth, and then jumps in the pool with them. And it's the funniest thing. And he'll climb up onto one of the floats and float around like he's a pirate. And the deer's enjoying himself. The kids are having a ball. And but anyway, we used to take him across on that big lawn. I had one antelope, a female antelope, and man, I'd take her across the road. and run. Boy, antelope, you know how fast antelope can run. They can really run. Well, she really would take off over there and come back, 300-400 yards and come back and back big circles and just running. I mean, it was so fun to watch. And then she just followed me home like a Cocker Spaniel. She's in a zoo right now up in Idaho. And wildlife is great. It's just really good. I do a lot of hunting and things like that, but it's good to be out in the bush, out in the wild, and see the beautiful things in nature. And people wonder why it feels so good, with the animals and the wildlife and things out in the woods, and they feel so much better when they go out into the forest and into the wildlife. And I used to argue with my mom and dad. I didn't want to go to church. I said, I feel better when I go up to the brickyard, which is a place where I trap muskrats and I'm in the fields and stuff. And anyway, they'd make me go to church. But I heard something a few years ago that a lady said, and I'd never heard it put into words, but the reason I think we feel so good out in nature is everything is following God's laws and rules, and there's a structure and there's a reason for it, and things in a natural order. And you get into that kind of an environment and you feel good. It's just, you can't help it. Sit by a big old mossy rock or a big old tree, just sit there in the quiet and watch things. And that's what's so nice about painting, is be able to paint things like that. And people, when they come to a painting, they really, all they can see in the painting is their own experiences, and hopefully they've had some good experiences out in the bush, and to remind them of places they've been, and it's just such a great world we live in. A lot of things to see, not enough time to do it. If we lived 1,000 years, we still wouldn't be able to see it all. But it's nice to know it's there. Keep our eyes and ears open for the opportunities, and things seem to get better and better. There again, I rub it and smash it and rub it and rub it and rub it and feather it and feather it and feather the edges of the clouds and let the brush really do the work. After all that's said and done, I take a fan brush generally and kind of pounce it and feather, and just kind of blend it so that you don't have those brush strokes catching light and throwing you off. You can see how this kind of, it's like it's capturing the light, and then when I put the colors in tomorrow, you'll be able to see it more and more. But usually build the rainbow up with 2 or 3 days of a little bit. Steve Rose, a good friend of mine, had the Biltmore Gallery. He said, softly, softly, catchy monkey. Just a little bit here and a little bit there, and all of a sudden things seem to really come together. But with the rainbows, you kind of have to build it up. It's hard to just smack it on and have it be there. So I'll do this and get it ready for the next layer tomorrow. And what I like to do when I get a painting to this stage, I take a fan brush and we'll kind of soften the edges and kind of beat down the brush strokes that are catching light and making kind of disturbing the piece, as it were, up in the different areas, smooth things out, leave a little bit of texture here and there, but this is for me, is a good way to make clouds, make them soft, make them be distant, and be where they should be. And I paint a lot of birds in my painting, because that's what you see, and when the minute you put them in there, it adds more volume to the sky. And I like birds. They're good birds. They're all, and a lot of plein air painters, they do the painting, but they don't put the other stuff in there. When I'm out painting plein air, which I don't do as much as I should, but I mean, it's fun doing it, but I'm always kind of, well, what's around the bend? What's just over behind those trees? And I explore more than I do paint. So, but it's, anyway, this just kind of knocks the obvious brush strokes out of the way and makes the sky lay flat and with a little bit of personality. And I can come back, and I will probably come back and do a little bit more later, but I like to get it pretty darn close to what it's going to be at this stage. Over the years, I've used fan brushes an awful lot, and just kind of try and duplicate the shapes of the clouds going this way, and I use the edge of the brush a lot. And then afterwards, I'll kind of pounce over the whole thing to make it smooth, so the brush strokes aren't catching light this way, and kind of fragmenting and breaking the planes in the sky, keeping things smooth and to a point. I mean, you want a little texture here and there. That's always nice, but keep that really controlled. Keeping this nice and soft, and that's kind of the preparation for where the rainbow is going to go. When I put that in, I'll change a few things, but that's kind of what a rainbow does if you look at them close. Some more subtle than this, other ones more in your face, but that's kind of the basics of the way I paint rainbows. But you have to have this dark out here, and you have to have the light in here, and when you put stuff in here, it really starts to sparkle when that comes through. It looks like it's through a prism. I did a big painting a few years ago in a temple back in Missouri, and it had a big rainbow in it. And in the early morning, I went back there for the dedication and everything of it, and the painting was hanging there. It was 5 feet by 5 feet, and a pastoral kind of scene like this, and clouds and a rainbow. And they had the beautiful chandeliers in there with prisms, and the sun, early morning, came through, bursting through the windows, and cast a million rainbows on the wall, across my painting and across the wall. And I was just so happy to see that my rainbow kind of held an edge, didn't suffer. It was bright enough, and it looked like a real rainbow with the other real rainbows. It was so cool to see that. But it's just, it's just one of the fun things that come across from time to time. But that really was a cool painting. That I remember that one. That's kind of down to the horizon. Now what I'll do is put There's some reflection in. And like I said, when I was back in my trapping days, I was here, not on the path over here. And there's so many great things under the banks, and the colors and contrasts, and just really a good bunch of things to see from that viewpoint, and then looking from there out into the fields, especially late in the evening and early in the morning. You really get some great effects. In painting reflections, if the water is clear, this is speaking really in generalities, but if the water is clear, the reflection is going to be a little bit darker than the sky, and if it's really muddy, it's going to be lighter because of the particulates in the water and everything reflect the light. But this is pretty clear spring water, and this will be more or less reflecting what's really there. And you get closer on different angles, you see what's at the bottom, and that's really dark. Looking through the water and seeing that, but from this angle, this is kind of what you would see. I'm just putting those same colors, but less white. Just a touch of yellow ochre in there to make it a little, put the distant mountains in. Yeah, I like to keep things that are the most distant relating to the sky, because it is the most distant thing. And then coming down to the horizon, there's a lot of the sky color in the distant trees and mountains or whatever it is, and the light filters through and keeps things distant. And then as it comes forward, make it more and more detailed and more, darker and lighter and darker and lighter and darker and lighter, build it up. But the distance is, I guess I do start at the back and work forward. Using those simple colors, you can go back and forth, like that, and it won't screw the whole thing up. But anyway, just a little bit here and a little bit there. I want this to be an advertisement for rosemary brushes. They make them in England. Man, they are really good brushes, and they're about half the price of when you go to the art store around the corner. I mean, they make such good brushes. But anyway, I think a lot of professional painters know about it. Not her, she really does a good job. Here what I'm doing is mixing up mostly blue, a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of red. That just kind of keeps it distant. It starts to bring in a little bit of the body color of the mountains, and kind of gives you a feel for the distance. And here I'm basically using my imagination to figure out what I'm going to do next. But basically, it's lighter back there. It gets darker as you come forward, and I paint. The darks are transparent as much as you can make it, and the lights are more opaque, and everything kind of then finds its place in the painting. And I'll use this to kind of define where I'm going to put some banks and tufts of dirt and stuff. That mix the blue with the different greens, raw sienna and yellow ochre. Makes a nice color that's compatible with the sky. The sky has a big influence on all the colors. No matter what color it is, it still has a big influence on all the surfaces. And so you have to kind of keep that in mind. Then things feel like they've got a mood to it and an atmosphere, and it's not just paint on a board, but it feels like it's what it should be. And this guy really does reflect into pretty much everything. Then what I like to do is tone them. I do it different ways in different stages, but landscape like this is pretty straightforward. They use turpentine, or just on this one, so it's a small area, use medium to tone this. I toned the canvas kind of a neutral gray-brown or warm brown, or depending on the tone of the painting, and that just kind of covers up the white, and I let that dry or evaporate, and then I paint into it, and then just make a few marks on the canvas with the brush to kind of block in the basic shapes, and then go from there. I like, as an overall rule, I kind of like to start at the top and work to the bottom, but in some subjects it's not that way, but it is kind of that way. Putting this on there just so I'm not fighting the white canvas. It made an impression on me when I was a little kid watching Walt Disney, The Painted Desert, and they had this magic paintbrush just go along and all things just painted behind it, and oh, it's just so cool. I think that probably sticks in my mind, having it finished and then not finished, then finished, then not finished, and I'll have a tendency to start part of the painting and get it pretty close, and then move to the next, move to the next. A lot of things in college they taught, well, block in this and block in that and block in this and block in that, and that just, to me, was always confusing. So I like to kind of start with a certain part of the painting, whether it's the sky, get it in so it's really looking good. Then I go, aha, now I'd have to do something to make that look good. And you just, and so forth and so on, you just go on, and a little bit finished, then a little more finished, and a little more finished, a little more finished, and that's kind of what I do. I'm Michael Coleman. I live here in Provo, Utah. I'm a painter and I do a lot of sculpture as well. What I'll try and show you is how I do it. I keep things really simple, and as you watch it, you'll be able to see what I'm doing, and I'll talk here and there, talk about basically painting values and the distance, and trying to create sort of a mood in the painting, and a lot of that's done with limited colors. You get too complicated sometimes with too many colors, but to keep things tonal and make things look like they really should look. On this painting, I'll start at the top and go to the bottom, and try and keep things in the right perspective. And also, we'll be showing you my studio and library. I've got a lot of stuff. My wife thinks I'm kind of a pack rat, but I've been doing this ever since I was a little kid. When I would find a skull or some interesting bones or anything, I'd bring everything home. But I've got a lot of stuff in here, and some really, really cool stuff. Mother Nature mostly spawns the greatest stuff, and that's what I tend to gravitate to. And you'll be seeing a lot of that, and a lot of artwork, a lot of North American Indian beadwork, and just really great things that men have created with their hands in here. I just love all that stuff, and collected it and live with it every day. And it really helps me as a painter to get in the mood and just really have a fun time sitting here painting, surrounded with all this stuff. And you'll get to see a lot of stuff. Okay, well, looking forward to you guys joining me and spending a few hours here watching me paint, and this will be fun, and glad to have you here.
Well, that's Michael Coleman from Timeless Landscapes, a brand new video, and you can learn more about it at painttube.tv. And we have a special discount code for you today only in the comments section. Now, let's get right to our interview with Michael Coleman.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Coleman, and this is my father, Michael Coleman. We're here in his library today that's just off of his studio, and today we're just going to talk about how he kind of grew up painting, and then what happened to me, and and painting as well. So, what got you into painting, Dad?
In school, when I first thought about art, I mean, little kids don't know what that is, but my teacher, Mrs. Tracy in kindergarten, called my mom and said, "Boy, this boy knows how to draw." I had drawn. I remember I drew a drawing of a potato bug. It was a little, looked like a little armored car, and anyway, so that from then on, all the teachers just let me draw. I loved to draw, and so I took advantage of it. And one day, I had a BB gun. I was always out shooting things and hunting and doing things, and I shot never expecting to hit anything, but I hit a little English sparrow, and it dropped, and my friend and I ran over, and I picked it up, and my friend let a blood-curdling scream. He says, "I'm going to tell your mom," and he went running home, and I just stood there just looking at this little magnificent bird. I kind of needed glasses in those days, so what I'd been shooting at was kind of blurry, and to see that in focus, I think that really clicked in my brain. And the symmetry of the feathers and the colors and subtle colors on an English sparrow, very subtle colors, and the contrasts. And I just held it in my hand and just looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, and went home and drew some pictures of it, and I've kind of been doing that ever since. I shoot ducks and different things and prop them up in my bedroom and use the encyclopedias to hold the wings the way I wanted them, and make watercolors and drawings. But that's kind of how I got into it. And I was always the class artist, and it was really just fun to do. I didn't give it much thought other than this is really, really fun to do it. I really love doing it.
Yeah, so it was interesting growing up, knowing that you were an artist, and I just thought that was normal, and I was always, that Murphy was an optometrist, and I just, there were jobs out there, but I didn't realize that Dad's left and went to work, and you didn't. You went to the studio, and it was our job to bug you to go play catch outside and go play baseball, and you still got your work done, and I think that's transferred into my own work with my kids. I'm used to being able to get quite a lot of work done, even though there's about a million distractions, and it's fantastic when you can go into the studio and paint for hours and hours and hours, but then at the same time you have family you need to worry about and take care of, and it was weird when someone told me, "Oh, your dad's this fantastic artist," and I just, it was one of those funny things where I just, of course you are. Because in my opinion, that was just normal. But as I got older, it was a little trickier knowing that was what I wanted to do, and then understanding, all the shows you went to and all the, the galleries you dealt with, and then I had grown up, talking to all your gallery people for you, because I was in charge of shipping or making mats for, watercolors and different people, some of your gallery people that wanted mats and different things, and that we'd ship out, and so like I say, that just kind of became normal to me, and then I had to ignore almost what you were already just in order to do what I was doing, and make sure it happened. Because I think if I waited for anything, it wasn't going to happen. Because I think knowing that I was your son helped, but if I didn't produce the work, I think that was going to be the killer. And it wouldn't have mattered who the heck you were if I didn't produce and I didn't put the time and put out the work. It wouldn't have mattered. I think that was probably the only pressure there is I needed to follow through, because you were who you were, and you did produce and get your stuff out there. And
Boy, Nick has worked hard. I've never ever had to tell him to get painting, going back in and paint. He just does it. He knows what to do. He has that thing in his head that, like I do, we want to get things done. Get things done, make it better, and better. And it's a love you have with what you're doing, whether you're a dentist or whatever. But if you love what you're doing, you're gonna work hard. And Nick has always just had that on his own, and whether it's from watching me or whatever, but boy, he just took to it like a duck to water. He knew what to do, and then we've got a lot of books. This library is full of books. I've got 6,000 volumes in my library here and in the studio and around, And Nick has just always been into that stuff. And then his studio is the same: books, learn. And I've never had to say, "Hey Nick, look at this, look at that, look at that." He's already looking at it. So it's been fun. It's been really fun.
It was kind of funny too when I got out of high school, and at the same exactly when you just described, you didn't have an interest in it. In high school, mom was always after me to finish up my grades and make sure I got good grades, and I was a good student. What was funny is getting into college, she was worried that I wasn't going to go, and I got in, and she said, "If you get in, you're going." So I got into BYU and everything, and then her thing is you have to graduate. If you're going to do anything, I'll let you do whatever you want, but you have to graduate, and that motivated me to go to every term and semester and get done. I think I got done in 2 years because I knew if I took a break, I wasn't going to go back because I hated it. and people were telling me, that it's already, they were making fun of what I wanted to do, and I was just trying to ignoring them and focusing on trying to, I felt like I was painting full time and going to school part time, but like I really was, that focused me, and
He'd take his assignments to class, and the teachers were flabbergasted. He'd have French mats on his drawings that were ready to sell, and that wasn't the point, but the presentation, the importance of it, and Nick knew that, and he not just draw a bunch of things and paint a few things and throw them into a closet someplace, but he knew how to present things because he watched how I would do it, and we would do it, and it just kind of come along, and boy, he was great at making French mats and different things. The teachers were, I think, they were
one guy especially
flabbergasted, didn't know what to do.
Wasn't amused with what I was.
No, they weren't amused. They were. I hate to say it, they were lazy and didn't know what to do, and Nick was so far above the guys. I knew some of the guys that were still.
Some of my professors were your contemporaries, and they didn't get you then, and they didn't get me. And I tried not to. I tried to go along to get along and do the assignments,
but they'd see how well Nick could do it. I think they were just mortified that Nick could do this, and they made it hard on him. But he graduated, like you say, a couple of years in college, and he was great. He took all the academic stuff. Accelerated courses and stuff, and zip zap, he was out of there. So, and he did graduate and had a fun time and met a nice woman to marry, and it's been fun. Things fall into place if you work hard. Things fall into place. And Nick knows how to do that. You ever, when you're doing things and all it's kind of just hit you like a cherry pie in the face that you knew what you wanted to do?
Well, I think there are actually a few moments.
It felt right. It felt right.
Well, again, when I was a little kid, just growing up, I remember second grade, my teacher, Miss Holbrook, we did some kind of paper cutting exercise craft project, and I remember saying, well, this isn't real art, or something stupid, just not nice for a second grader to say. And she took me out in the hall and she goes, not every kid's dad is a famous artist like your dad. You need to be nice and go back into the assignment. I thought, okay, I can do that. And she was very nice about it, and I, knocked it off after that. But then there's a few moments like that in school, not just like that one, but where I always wanted. That's what it's like. Well, that's what I'm going to be, and I think I bugged you enough to go to the art store to get enough. When I'd go with you to Provo Art and Frame to get. Sketchbooks and colored pencils and watercolors and everything. And then I remember in high school too, my fantastic art teacher, Dan Barney, was talking about the percentage of high school kids who go on to actually be, some kind of professional in the, graphic arts or graphic designer or artist. And it was very low. And I thought, well, I'm that percentage. And he goes, oh, don't speak so fast. You just don't know. I said, oh, I know. And he goes like, you don't know? I said, yes, I do. I know. And we had kind of a funny relationship like that. But that sometimes there was a funny conversation with teachers that kind of would almost tempt me, or tell me that I couldn't do. You can't do that. And that was especially my experience at BYU a little bit. Is they made fun of what I did. They told me that it had already been done, and they would not make, like I say, they were hard on me, and like I said, whether they knew it or not, they were focusing me for better or worse to continue on the path. That, of course, that's what I'm going to do, and it was always kind of a natural progression to doing certain things, and there were some actually good classes at BYU, like the etching class that I took. A guy named Gary Barton, and he was fantastic. But yeah, some of the professors I had, the dean actually, without me even having to ask, waived certain classes. They go, "Oh, you two are not going to get along. I already know how this is going to go. I will waive this for you because I already see it not going very well for you." And then that particular professor, at one of my classes, he says, "Hey, how come you haven't been in any of my? I know you're supposed to take my classes. They're the required classes." And I said, "Oh, I know." I was happy to tell him, probably. The dean he waived your classes for me. He did what? But like I say, some people were watching out for me, and some people I think weren't helpful. But it ended up being all helpful and positive in the long run, I think. And even with my wife now, I had to convince her that I treated it was a real job. She goes, "Oh no, I think I need an accountant. This isn't going to work," because she got her BFA in photography, and she has an artistic eye as well, and she was quite worried that we needed to get she needed an accountant as a husband, and so she could do her creative stuff, and someone else was being smart about everything else. And I said, no, I said, this is a real job, trust me. I treat it like a real job, and when I'm sick, when I feel good, when I'm too busy, you still have to do it no matter what, and whether anyone's telling you to do it. Because, like I said, there's no magic elves that come in at night to paint your paintings for you when you don't show up, the next day. So, like I said, there's been a few moments over the years that definitely have continued to push me in the right the right direction. You hope it's the right direction anyway. So,
I've really been proud of all the stuff that he does. That it's not like winning an Academy Award or anything like that. Nick, when he's entered contests, he kind of followed in my footsteps there. We always
never
got kicked out of the contest. The teachers didn't think we could do it on our own, and so they would disqualify us, and then we'd find out later. And but just to see his work, go, oh yes, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and not have to say, Nick, do it this way, do it that way, do it that way. I've never had to do that way. I've corrected him and this and that and the other, but I've really been proud that he knows what to do, and I'll say things and he's already thinking that, and so it's not like there's the Academy Award that I'm so proud of my son. He's just always been there. He's always doing things, and he's still doing things, and it just comes so natural to him, and that really makes me proud that he's. I don't have to say, now, Nick, think about it this way, think about it that way, because he already does, and it's just kind of a natural kind of a thing, and that's what I love about him. He's just a good guy, and but yeah, I'm really, really, really proud, and time marches on as I get older and older and better looking. I don't know, but you look back and you try and see highlights and this and that and the other, but it's kind of funny because everything with Nick is always a highlight, and it's hard to pin down one thing. And another thing, Nick, with his children, he's the best dad I've ever seen. He really thinks things through and explains things to them, and it's really cool. I don't have to do anything. He's just give them a chukka under their chin, and
like I'm flying by the seat of my pants all the time. Anyway,
oh, that's
those
what it
guys,
is,
those
man.
kids. So it's interesting, like this day and like present day, with stupid pandemic and then galleries closing and still painting our paintings. I was curious what was going to happen, and it was interesting that people, I think, that were staying home, I think they looked for, hey, what's missing in our houses, and I think a lot of them thought it was art, and I'm glad that they sometimes turned to the internet and turned to their collection they already had and thought, we need more Colemans, and it's given us more time to paint, and it was this last year and a half or so has been interesting to paint more paintings, even though the galleries are slowing down a little bit, and a few have closed their doors. And
yeah, these kind of things we always tell each other, paint your best, paint your best, paint your best, and you're ready for anything. So
yeah, and even with museum shows that are popping up and fundraisers, things that we do, and yeah, it's definitely interesting to just, like I say, because you can talk about stuff and complain about funny things, but I think it comes down definitely just to getting your work done and being ready and I'm looking forward to getting out more and being able to go back to Sweden. Like the one time we went there and saw the fantastic museums and the National Museum, and we went to Anders Zorn's house and studio and museum and got to see some of his pieces and where he painted and with his natural light. And one thing I remember thinking is when we were visiting his house is that they talked about his house staff. They'd sit down together with all the staff in their house to eat their meals together, and I thought, man, we could use a staff, not just Danny the assistant, but a whole fleet of assistants. That would be fantastic, I think.
Time's the enemy. We try and cram too much every day, and it works, but. Yeah, with the economy and everything, we've never neither one of us has ever really. It sounds funny, paint for the money. We like to paint, and good things happen. So I don't know. It's an interesting world, and things change, go back and forth over my life. And Nick has got a lot ahead of him, and I don't know what the future's going to hold for anybody. But as long as you're doing what you love to do, that's got to be really the reward at the end of the day. So we have a good time.
Well, I still miss your friend Steve Rose,
Yeah.
who held off the longest time having a website of all things. And he goes, well, if people are going to buy a painting, they got to come see me.
Yeah.
And then I think you used to joke in the early 2000s that, the internet's just a fad. And I actually saw an article the other day that talked about people did think it was actually just going to be a fad. And I thought, well, my dad was right, except for the fad, but being a fad. But no, that's what I do like about art is it almost is like that's what I don't think the internet is good at, is giving you a sense of place or a sense of tactile, something you can hold on to. That's what's so fantastic about galleries is you can go into it, you go to some place and you go into a gallery, and then you bring your experiences to to the paintings that you like, whether it's our paintings or someone else's paintings. And Steve Rose had some fantastic, the good old historical stuff that just was.
Yeah, Steve had the Biltmore Gallery, a legendary gallery in the art world in the West, and he taught us he taught us some good lessons. He was a great guy, one of our best friends, and he knew how things really should be, and Nick missed a lot of it. I grew up, and most of the really, really good art dealers are dead. Kennedy Galleries, where I really got a big start. Rudy Wunderlich and things. Mike Frost at Jay and Bartfield's. Mike's still alive, but he's closed his gallery. And all these galleries are closing. And Nick has missed a lot of fun things that I've had, and I feel sorry for that, but it's a different world, and I don't claim to understand it, and I really don't try the computer world and the digital stuff and everything, but it's a different thing. It's a new adventure, and Nick is really guiding me a long ways into this kind of stuff, and I need it big time because I'm I'm kind of a stick in the mud.
Well, it's funny, like when you show up to a show, like I kind of forced you to go to the Prix de West show in Oklahoma a year or two ago, and the joke is, hey, you're alive. I mean, you might have the best paintings, be the best painter, but if you don't put a face to it, sometimes people don't even know that there's someone behind it. If they think they don't think about it too much, but they don't really think you're dead. But if you don't go out of your house to the actual museum, and
Nick has learned those lessons. I used to go to these shows in New York and different places and end up with a bunch of business cards with notes on the back. People wanted a painting here. I didn't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I could have gone home and sorted them out and painted all kinds of paintings, and if I really liked somebody, I'd do it. But Nick is following up more, and that's where computers and his foresight into what is the real world now is helping me a lot because I need it. And anyway, it really is a brave new world, and I'm kind of slow to recognize it. But Nick is really helping me a lot.
I do what I can.
Well, for the future, we've got a few things planned, but with this COVID stuff and traveling, I don't like to travel. I like to be there, but I don't like the travel part of it. My wife loves the traveling and everything and going places, and I've been a lot of places, and I'm glad I did it when I had the energy and saw things. But I'm really concentrating more and more on my painting now, and I think Nick is too. We both are because of circumstances. It's fun and it's nice to stay at home and paint, and we've got a few little trips planned here and there, and Nick more than I do, but we just have a fun time together and coordinate things, and if Nick hears of something that's fun, he'll tell me and I tell him, and we put things together, and we've got some really good friends and backups and connections in Africa, and Nick and I have had some really fun experiences up in British Columbia hunting bears and hunting moose and different things, and you get close when it's just the two of you and you're sneaking up on a grizzly bear or a moose or something like that. It's a serious business, and to watch Nick, the way he confronts things in life, and it's just a good way to do things. But we've got some pretty serious plans ahead, and we plan on doing a lot of things from here. What are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, what I'm looking forward to the most is I'm trying to figure out with winter coming on, kids ski team stuff, and running them up to the canyon, which is great because then I can get some photographs running up to the canyon. But it's almost every other day, so it's time out of your day to stop painting and doing certain things, and also getting ready for like the archery show coming up in January, and then the Briscoe and down in San Antonio, and trying to find time to fit all that in, and at the same time, try to find some time for family to go actual travel, and I think Med has been trying to get either to Sweden or to Italy right now, and that's what she's trying to focus on, and I'm trying to let her do all of the planning stuff, and then I could try to see if I can sneak it in, and but there's always, what I love about traveling too is, if it's with my wife and the kids, it's museums, and she always plans fantastic museum visits and fantastic art, and like I say, we visited Amsterdam a couple years ago and went to Rembrandt's house and got to go to the Rijksmuseum, and then visited Spain and got to go to Soroya's house and got to go to the Prado, and that's a bad pronunciation, and a few other fantastic museums that were there, but I feel like there's always a pilgrimage to be had to certain artists' homes, and I'd love to get, what I really want to do is get to the Adirondacks this upcoming year, and spend some time on a lake and a cabin out in the woods and nobody bugging you. That's the biggest one I want to get to right now. So if I can make that happen, I'll be a happy guy, I think. So yeah, we should go up Sundance Canyon and see if we can see any waterfalls, and we got some snowfall, but it's melting again real quick, and see if we can see some cool.
Yeah, we live in really in a great place in the Wasatch Mountains, and Provo Canyon is, when you live someplace, it's always, oh, this isn't so great. I want to go far away, far away, far away. But the more Nick and I have both traveled a lot of places, and I think as the years go by, we come to appreciate where we live more and more. And just 20 minutes up the canyon, boy, there's some great stuff. You just have to open your eyes and see it. Mm-hmm. It's just so cool. The waterfalls and the streams and rivers and fields and the moose and the elk and the turkeys and the wildlife and stuff, and all the things that we love so much. It's just right here. So it's a good life and a good place to be. And
well, want to head up there tomorrow and see what we can see?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is the great legend Michael Coleman, and it's called Timeless Landscapes, and you can learn more about it at painttube.tv. And remember, we have a special code for you, a discount code, up in the comments section. Make sure to take advantage of that. And thanks for watching. I'm Eric Rhodes.
I'm Michael Coleman. I live here in Provo, Utah. I'm a painter and I do a lot of sculpture as well. What I'll try and show you is how I do it. I keep things really simple, and as you watch it, you'll be able to see what I'm doing, and I'll talk here and there, talk about basically painting values and the distance, and trying to create sort of a mood in the painting, and a lot of that's done with limited colors. You get too complicated sometimes with too many colors, but to keep things tonal and make things look like they really should look. On this painting, I'll start at the top and go to the bottom, and try and keep things in the right perspective. And also, we'll be showing you my studio and library. I've got a lot of stuff. My wife thinks I'm kind of a pack rat, but I've been doing this ever since I was a little kid. When I would find a skull or some interesting bones or anything, I'd bring everything home. But I've got a lot of stuff in here, and some really, really cool stuff. Mother Nature mostly spawns the greatest stuff, and that's what I tend to gravitate to. And you'll be seeing a lot of that, and a lot of artwork, a lot of North American Indian beadwork, and just really great things that men have created with their hands in here. I just love all that stuff, and collected it and live with it every day. And it really helps me as a painter to get in the mood and just really have a fun time sitting here painting, surrounded with all this stuff, and you'll get to see a lot of stuff. Okay, well, looking forward to you guys joining me and spending a few hours here watching me paint, and this will be fun, and glad to have you here.